You've reached Exposing SMG.
I'm Angela,
And I'm Alana.
and we run a celebrity news blog where we uncover celebrity secrets and give you the inside scoop. We recently had a voice reveal on a podcast called It Sounded Like a Good Idea at the Time, and you can check it out wherever you listen to your podcast.
It's been highly requested that we start narrating our videos instead of giving them to you guys through text. And that's what we're here to do today. Hey guys, and welcome back to Exposing SMG. In today's video, we are going to cover the topic of Justin and Hailey Bieber's relationship, and we are also going to talk about Hailey's most recent interview and what she admitted on Ashley Graham's podcast. Justin and Hailey have had a controversial history, mainly because they got engaged 2 months after Justin was seen with Selena Gomez. However, what Hailey confirms now in 2020 is something we've told you guys about 2 years ago. We've said that Justin and Selena never got back together when they reunited in 2017 and kept up their fling until March 2018. Today, Hailey confirms the same exact thing. So we are going to break down what she was talking about, and on top of that, add on more personal inside details that happened between them. And remember, we are always right.
I just don't think people knew the history, because I was also so private about everything, and contrary to popular belief, he had been single for a while.
So what happened between Justin and Selena, and what made them reunite again if they weren't dating? Simple. They were reunited by Hillsong Church, and both of them understood it was a fling, even if one of them sold a different story to the media. If you're interested in this story, I have a video up about that on my channel. People like to look at Hailey and Justin in disgust because they believe Justin left Selena and got engaged to Hailey 2 months later. And even though that's the story on the surface, there's a lot of inside details that the public doesn't know. Justin was talking to Hailey behind closed doors as he was being seen with Selena. Selena was also talking to other people because, once again, they weren't dating.
Contrary to popular belief, he had been single.
So let's do a little Jailey recap. Back in August 2016, we released a blog post that said, "Are Justin and Hailey still talking?" And we said that they are getting super close and are on the verge of being official. However, Justin is starting tour and doing press for the Purpose era, so it's getting a little complicated and not much is happening at this point between them. So the thing about Justin and Hailey is that they started 2016 off to a good start. They were going to be together, they were really close, they spent New Year's together, but with Justin knowing that he's gonna go on the Purpose tour, he was hesitant at making the relationship official. We touched base about this topic in a different post from August 2016 where we said that Justin was kind of scared of having Hailey as his official girlfriend while he was on tour. He was a bit wary about making it official between the two. And I said that they both agreed that there was no title on the relationship before he went on tour, and after everything that went on, at the end of the day, Jailey was supposed to happen. With that being said, Justin did take his relationship with Hailey very seriously in 2016, and they weren't just a random fling. Fast forward 4 years later, and both of them are on Instagram Live in May 2020 where Justin says, "I think I was always honest with her though about where I was at before. I never made her believe that. I was always like, I'm in a place where I'm really not ready to fully commit, and that's just not where I'm at. I don't know what's really going on in my life." So Justin and Hailey knew each other since 2009 because Hailey grew up in a famous family. However, it wasn't until towards the end of 2014 is when they started getting super close. At this point, Justin is going through his extremely rebellious phase. Every other week, there is some news about what Justin is doing wrong, and the entire world was against him. He was arguably the most hated celebrity during that time. He was making headlines for peeing in mop buckets, or his scandal towards the end of his weed scandal towards the end of 2012. Every single month or week, there was something new that Justin was getting in trouble for, along with getting arrested and just everything that was going on with him. And everyone was actively against him. Unless you're Hailey Baldwin. And this is a crucial point to understand because this is what's going to help you understand Justin and Hailey's history. She was there for him at a time where no one wanted to be. She was there for him when it was popular to hate him. She was there for him where his famous ex-girlfriend, Selena Gomez, was out in the media every single week trashing him.
Last time you were here, you were with Justin Bieber. And
I was with a Justin Bieber?
Well, yeah, you were with Justin Bieber. Now, the last time he was on, he and I got into a conversation, and he said something, and I said something, and then he said something, and I said something, and I made him cry.
Well, then that makes two of us.
However, Hailey was there to listen. She was a shoulder for him to lean on. And eventually, Hailey gains Justin's trust. And this is when he starts opening up to her, and both of them start catching feelings for each other. Now, this is something that we have actively discussed on our website, exposingsmg.com. We've said that Justin and Hailey had mutual feelings for each other, and they were serious. And fun fact, we actually released a post in January 2015 where we included our source's messages saying that she saw that Justin said that he's in love with Hailey. Fast forward to May 2020 when Justin and Hailey are on Facebook Live. And what does he say? Exactly that. I think just time being around each other, just spending time, I started realizing more and more qualities I liked about you and more things that were so endearing. I think I said, I am falling in love with you. We even referenced when Justin first told Hailey that he's in love with her in our post from August 2018 when we wrote about when they first got engaged. And I specifically wrote, they got very close in 2015 and Justin would even joke about falling in love with Hailey. And we all know that wasn't a joke. So you may be wondering, why didn't Justin and Hailey get together at that point? Why weren't they an official thing? And that has to do with the fact that Justin had other commitments and he knew that. So he didn't want to tell Hailey, yeah, I'm in it for the long ride, and then go take a year and a half off for tour. In 2015, during this time period, he also says that he doesn't want to mess things up with Hailey because what if she ends up being the girl that he's going to marry? And that's exactly what happened. This emotional confusion got Hailey pining for him and living on the what-if scenario. This is something that we've talked about several times and most recently in a post a couple of months ago, and this is something that Hailey talks about in her recent podcast interview.
I just was I always had this idea in my mind, if Justin and I ever end up back together, we're gonna be way later in life, and I'm gonna be he's gonna be 30 and I've figured it out, and if not, we're never gonna be together.
As you can see, this what-if scenario got her hooked on him emotionally, so she did things with good intention, but it came off too strong. This behavior of hers was often cited as obsessive, but in a more professional manner, I'd say she was hung up on him. In Hailey's defense, she was a shoulder for Justin to cry on during his worst days. And when things got complicated with his legal obligations and his career, he wasn't around. So when he got better and she wasn't in his life, she was upset because it's oh, does he even care about me, or did he just use me to moan about his problems? And this is something that Justin said in an interview. He said something along the lines of, she would ask her mutual friends if I'm doing okay, and she was happy I was, but upset that she wasn't in my life. So Hailey fell hard for Justin, but at the same time felt stupid because he never made it official. She couldn't get over him no matter how hard she tried. Hailey even had a fling with Cameron Dallas, and our source told us that Hailey barely even talks about Cameron, and she wasn't even sure that he was going to be the one to cure her broken heart over Justin. Hailey did try to be at a similar outings that he was at, and she wanted to be back into his life. Justin knew that he did her dirty, so he didn't want to confront that until he was ready. Therefore, they would be at the same events, but they wouldn't talk.
The picture is of one of Zoe's pastors on stage with the caption, "This weekend, this was one of those perspective-changing weekends for me." She continued saying, stepping away from it feeling refreshed and feeling clear. Apparently, Hailey and Justin attended the same late-night service during the conference, but the two were seen leaving separately.
Hailey being in love with him clouded her judgment, and Justin swimming in a pool of guilt clouded his. In December 2016, we published an article where our source told us that Justin called up Hailey to make amends. Fun fact, we said this December 6, 2016 after they haven't been seen together for the whole year, and then TMZ reported a spotting on December 21st, 2016. Have we ever failed, y'all? Nope. So during this time period, they did run into each other a couple of times, but they didn't go back to their normal friendship yet. This takes us to where Selena Gomez comes back into the picture. At the end of 2017, Justin got back in touch with her because Selena had just had a life-threatening surgery and she wanted him back. Justin and Selena got back together roughly about 15 days after she was publicly broken up with The Weeknd. I mean, if you know what went on with that, just know their contract ended, but that's for a different time. So Justin and Selena then got reunited, and they stayed together from September 2017 until March 2018. So we're going to skip right over Jelena because, like we said, we already had a video where we discussed everything that happened between them. The only thing you need to grasp from that is that they were just together during a tough time, and through the involvement of Hillsong Church, they were not official. They were barely a fling. Like we said in the beginning of this video, Justin was talking to Hailey, and like Hailey reiterated several times, he was single during that time.
So if you guys want a whole video about the aftermath of Jelena 2018 and why Selena released Lose You to Love Me and the entire Rare era, comment down below. We're also going to explain how if Jelena was a fling, then what does Selena's entire Rare era mean? So just comment down below if you want that, but right now we're just going to wrap up Jailey. Let's fast forward to June 2018 when Justin and Hailey are publicly together. They're seen making out, their PDA is all over the place, and they go on a lot of summer vacations together, one of them being the Bahamas, where he pops a question and Hailey says yes. Now the reason that he wanted to propose was to prove to Hailey that he is actually serious about her, because she didn't want to get back together with him just so he can leave her again in a few months and make her look like a fool. Justin understood that if he wanted somebody to support him in life, that would be Hailey as his best choice. Now some people might hear that and say, oh, that sounds like settling. It's not settling. He truly does love her. He knows that to get better in life, he needs a partner like Hailey, someone who actually cares about him just as much as she would care about herself, if not more. And in return, Justin feels like he owes it to Hailey to be better because she stood by him through so much, and he also feels like he owes it to himself and his fans to start tackling his healing at the root. And Justin and Hailey are that type of couple that when they're together, they bring out the better in each other. So when Justin's with Hailey, he becomes a better version of himself, and when Hailey's with Justin, she becomes a better version of herself. It's not one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm just settling because you love me. It's one of those things where it's like, I see a positive change in my life when you're around. And that goes for both of them. So for example, for Justin and Selena, it was this burst of passion and love, but there was a lot of toxicness. So even though Justin and Selena might have that flaming love relationship, it's very romanticized, there was a lot of toxic stuff going on in that relationship. And Justin wasn't his happiest when Selena was around, and arguably she wasn't her happiest when he was around either. It's like they both low-key made each other miserable from all their toxic passion is what I would call it. I would call Justin and Selena toxic passion. A lot of passion in the relationship, and it's always matched with a lot of toxic energy. So yes, Justin and Hailey continue to work on their relationship even now. I remember a source a year ago used to tell me about how they were in couples counseling and also individual counseling, and the reason why they didn't have a wedding right away is because they didn't want to be that couple that was doing everything for show. At first they wanted to work on each other, see how living situations would have been if they were living together, and then have a public wedding for everyone to see. They weren't very big on doing damage control, which is why in the beginning when everyone said Justin looked depressed and he was always crying, his team did no damage control. Because at that time, Justin was too worried about fixing himself rather than giving the public what they wanted to see, which is him and Hailey being all happy and lovey,
in the streets of New York instead of sobbing. So Justin was working on fixing himself, and he had a lot of issues in the beginning. They both were concerned about just bettering themselves in their marriage, as opposed to everyone's public views about them. So that wraps up what looked like Jailey's public struggle in 2018 when they got engaged. The theme of Jailey is just to tackle it together and better yourself, and that's exactly what happened when Justin was battling Lyme disease. And at that time, they didn't know Justin had Lyme disease, so he was battling it undiagnosed. So that's really just the general story of Jailey. They're really just a normal married couple. They go through the same things that any other married couple goes through, and they're actually just basic. This video was just supposed to show you the story, and I know a lot of people like to think that she popped up out of nowhere, but this video actually shows you Jailey's history in a very generalized way. If you guys want more information, we actually have a blog post called The Jailey Dynamic, and we dive into specific details with Jailey all the way from 2014. We talk about them pre-marriage and after marriage. We talk about their roles in the relationship, very specific stuff. So go ahead and check that out. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed our voice narration. If you guys want us to do more of this, definitely comment down below and let us know what you want. You can find us at Exposing SMG blog on Instagram and Exposing SMG on Twitter, and we always release exclusive tea on our website, exposingsmg.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more.